Buddy, I forget we are on a mission this year to have our grand rising. So we're looking at from good to great to grand. Who doesn't want to go from good to great to grand? Good, I don't see any hands. So we're all on the same page here. That's what our mission is. That's what we're going to do. So this month, we're looking at this idea of self-actualization is kind of our framework for going from good to great to grand. Now, wherever you are, in good to great to grand, I know there's some people that right now you're sitting at grand right now. You're already there. And I know that there's other people that are maybe less than great, maybe less than good at the moment. But wherever we are right now, like that's our baseline, we're going to call that good right now. Because that way we mark our journey, we see where we're going. And through this process all month long, as we look at the idea of self-actualization, we're going to do what Ernest Holmes tells us about going within, discovering our own unique expression of ourselves as that thing itself, whatever you want to call it, spirit, the infinite, just life, whatever you call it, that we are that unique expression, and so that's what we're working on. So I wanted to start with just a very simple definition. The best definition I found of what self-actualization is the process of realizing one's full potential as a human being. Now, there's one word in there that I want to draw the most emphasis to. Does anybody want to guess what word is? Human potential actualization. I don't think I heard it. Did anybody say what? There you go. B's got it. No, it's not the letter A. It's the process. Did I hear anybody say process? There we go. Thanks, Vivian. Process, because if you're like me, I know, when I first started looking at spiritual stuff, the idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and reaching self-actualization, or looking at somebody that we call enlightened, it felt like this end destination. I'm going to get there, I'm going to reach self-actualization, and ta-da, everything's good, I'm done. Life is now nothing but butterflies and unicorns. Wonderful. But we know that's not how it works. And we're going to just explore that more later in the month about how Ernest Holmes also tells us that. There is no end destination, so we can reach that place where we're feeling self-actualized, but all that does is open up the next part of our journey, which is what it means to be part of an infinite and eternal universe. So actually, this idea of being actualized, we do it all the time. All the time, we're being self-actualized. I was trying to think of some examples, and I think one of the earliest ones is in the transition from a baby when it's starting to transition into a toddler. And it's doing its thing, it's already learned how to crawl, which is another step, but it's inspired to walk like other people walk. It's got an image inside, in its inner landscape. And at some point, it gets up and it tries it, and it takes a couple steps. And then it falls. And then at some point in the near future after that, it does it again. But it's not long during that time, once it felt that image and it got the strength to do it and found a balance, that's a step of self-actualization for that toddler. Because it had something within, and it visualized it, and it did it. Maybe not consciously, but it did it nevertheless. So we have these moments. It could be when you set out to get a degree in something. It can be a moment where you are called upon to make a moral or ethical decision. Maybe something that to do this is going to be difficult, and the reward might not be great compared to the risk of what might go wrong if you step into this. But in your heart, it's something that you have to do. And when you step into something and show up in that way, that's a moment of self-actualization. That deeper part of you stepping up to what is within, to that spirit that's within. So we're always having these little moments of self-actualization. I remember, as an adult, one of the first times, my adult life has been an interesting and I wasn't always on this path. And when I finally got on it, I realized the first time I took one of the Science of Mind classes, for me, that was a huge moment of self-actualization, because up to that point in my adult life, if something got hard, I just quit. And I moved on, found the next thing to go do. That was the first time when I took a Science of Mind class that for 10 weeks, I drove 20 to 30 minutes each way, 3 hours a night, once a week. But at the end of that 10 weeks, when I realized I didn't miss 1 week, I did the homework, I finished the final project. For me, that was a moment, honestly, as an adult, I dropped out of college twice. And that was kind of the story of my adult life. I was just along for the ride. I was having fun, I thought. But self-actualization happened on that, and that was just the start of many self-actualization moments after that. So maybe when self-actualization or enlightenment, the people that we consider the masters, I look at a Yogananda or the Buddha or the teacher that was Jesus as enlightened. But I think they're human as well. So I think if you were inside their heads, you would see, yes, they've learned a lot, they've taught a lot, but they're still human and they still have that next part of the journey. But from an outsider's perspective, they've had so many self-actualization moments that from the outside perspective, we can say, ooh, that person is enlightened. We can see that. But it's still, for those people, it's a process that never ends, and it's the beauty of this universe. There's nothing, it blows me away when I sit and think about how perfect this experience of life is. The good, the bad, the ugly, the challenges, all of it is perfectly getting us to that next expansion. So I think a big key to realizing our moments of self-actualization is what we're talking about today. How often do you just stop and look back over time? So think about it. Where were you 10 years ago compared to where you're at now? Are you feeling better? Are you feeling more connected to that thing within? I know for myself, I tell the story often, so I won't go too deep into it today, but it was when I was in my first year of practitioner training, when I found myself kind of back into a pattern that I had experienced in my life that was my default coping mechanism when things got hard, and I caught myself in it. But it was when I realized, one, I hadn't been in that spot in a year, maybe more, and something that used to happen pretty regularly, every few months almost. And then realizing, and I noticed it now. Instead of waiting 2 weeks of misery, I noticed after a couple hours. So it's moving forward and seeing that way, but stepping back. This is how I picture it. It's like stepping back and just observing ourselves. So we need to look back from time to time and recognize and realize we've come a long way. And even if we've done nothing intentional and we may not feel like we've grown, step back. Because we've all, even when we're doing nothing, we're still learning, we're still observing, and sometimes it's just gestating until we get to our next place of discovery. So today, looking at the inner landscape, we're looking at observation, curiosity, and a discovery. So this is where it begins, is observation. So observation is a tool, and when we utilize it, the most important thing is to step back, like I said, and try to just observe things from a place of beginner's mind, looking as if, I don't know anything about this situation. I don't know anything about what's going on in my own individual life, so I'm just going to take it with an open mind, observing with non-judgment. I think, most of us, we're our own worst critics. And when we find ourselves in a challenging spot, instead of just stepping back and just saying, why is that spot challenging? Why did that thing upset me? Was it that thing? Was I actually harmed? Or what's my reaction? What's it coming from? And just observing from a place of non-judgment, then we start to learn about ourselves and realize it's not the world out there that's affecting me. It's what's within here that is telling the story or driving the boat. But when I could just step back and separate myself, then we start to get deeper insights into who we are, what we come from. So as we're observing that, then that part of that is curiosity becomes our tool. I love Google. I think I use it at least 15 times a week, easily a couple times a day, where either my kids will say, Dad, what is this? What does this mean? Or what happened in this whatever? My son loves World War II stuff for some reason. You'll just ask these questions. I'm like, I don't know. Let's look it up. And you can just Google it right away. And inevitably, when you Google it, it pulls up your answer, but it usually, like maybe alongside a Wikipedia, it gives you a couple other things. So that act of curiosity connects us with bigger things. You don't find just the one answer, you find more related answers. So this week of the inner landscape, I want us to utilize our inner Google. When we have questions, when we start to observe ourselves and just wonder, like, what is it that makes me tick? What are the values that I am immovable on? What is my interpretation of what's happening around me? And as we use that and then go within to just observe and see what comes up, we're utilizing, like we are doing our Google search and seeing what's there. We are part of that one mind. And so when we do this, we disconnect ourselves from past narratives or false narratives, those things that we tell ourselves when we might say, you made that mistake again. You're just not good enough. You're not worthy of love. All these different things. When we observe and start to realize what's within and go gentle and non-judgmental on ourselves, then we change the narrative and we become more of what Spirit has for us. So that's what we are here to discover. Like Reverend Shell's reading, there's no individual in God or Spirit. There's no individual, but we are all individualized points of that same thing. So we are all infinite potentials blended together in its own unique mix that makes us unique to one another. But we're still the same thing in each package. So as we begin to discover that and then retell, like change that narrative, we uncover what was implanted within us that makes us who we show up as in this world. Yes, we are all the same infinite beings, but there's something that makes Phil, that, we might have a couple similarities, but I guarantee there's so many things that make you unique that I have never thought of, that I've never done. And the same with anybody else. Mel, you and I, we've got some similarities, but we are far different people. And that's how the universe experiences itself and its infinite nature is through each of us. So when we do this process to become curious about our inner landscape, we are making the universe see itself. So the way I picture this or envision this is, it's as if human beings, we're like this flower growing out of the universe. Picture this universe is like the soil, and this flower comes up, and each of us are unique. No two flowers are the same, just like no two humans are the same. And then we open up, the light, the sun opens us up, and we release that fragrance and that beauty, that uniqueness. How many people go through life and get to the end of the life and realize, like, your bud never opened? We held it, we protected it, and kept it closed for whatever reason. Maybe we didn't feel safe to share who we really are. Maybe we felt afraid to explore who we really are. But in order to self-actualize, these are the questions that I want to encourage you, if this is something that resonates with you, to ask more of these questions. And as we do that, that's how the universe comes alive in this out-picturing. So, Ernest Holmes, from The Science of Mind, he tells us, life waits upon our discovery of natural laws our discovery of ourselves, and our discovery of our relationship to the great whole. I'm going to read it one more time. Life waits upon our discovery of natural laws, our discovery of ourselves, and our discovery of our relationship to the whole. Life waits. It's there for us. It's patient. It wants to experience all of the infinite nature. That's what it's all about, but it's also free will. It allows us to do it in our own ways and in our own time, and it just sits and waits. The bud that doesn't open, it falls to the ground. Its essence continues on into whatever it goes. The plant that it was decomposes, it goes back into that creative process. And life isn't less because of it. Life is infinite. It could never be less when somebody doesn't show up. But when we do show up and we let that bud open up, the world is a brighter place for one another, for each other. And this is how self-actualization turns into our collective actualization. One thought, one action, one act of self-actualization at a time. So our spiritual principle this week is the spiritual principle of heaven. Heaven is the state of awareness of our true nature. We experience our true nature to the degree that we become conscious of it. It with a capital I. That's the thing itself. We actively seek to know the true nature of every individual, or in this case, to know the true nature of ourself, and celebrate each individual's unique expression of it. This experience of our true nature is sure to be attained by all. So heaven, I was just talking with my son about it yesterday. It's not a destination. It's not a physical place that we can get in our spaceship and travel to. It's a state of mind, which everything that exists is in mind. So our spiritual practice for the week of observation is meditation. Mindful observation, contemplation, and curiosity, embracing these things. So I want to encourage myself, that in addition to whatever practice we already have, whatever meditation or quiet time we do, to add on a few minutes each day of just observing and asking that question, who am I? What's important to me? And just observing and seeing what comes up. So we have an affirmation to share, and it is, I am open and curious as I explore my own inner landscape. So if this resonates with you, let's all say it together. Say, I am open and curious as I explore my own inner landscape. Because it's a wild place in there. Wild. And that's the beauty. But we need to stop and enjoy it and move in. So this is going to be a fun month as we really embrace and engage with who we are as those unique expressions of the infinite that we are. That being said, I want to finish with a quote from the Sufi mystic known as Rumi. And he says, and you, will you begin that long journey into yourself? To thine own self be true. So with that, let's take it into silence, into the inner landscape. So as I draw my attention into this place, and feel the vastness of mind all around me, the vastness of mind within me, and just recognize it as that one infinite presence. With a deep breath and a deep release, I recognize that only one mind that is in all of existence, everything that stems from it is our physical reality in order to know it. So I affirm that I am 100% of spirit, that there's nothing outside of it. I know that everybody that hears these words is that same infinite nature as a child of the divine, as an outreach. So I know that there is curiosity within each of us. I know that there are gifts and inspirations within each individual in this world, that there are things that want to come through everybody and be shared in this world to make the world a brighter place, a kinder place, a more diverse place, a place that celebrates the infinite qualities of every individual. Because when we listen to our heart and bring forth what is there in a way that harms no one. The world, the entire world is lifted up. So I know that life force is the driving impetus behind everything, and that right now the buds that are these humans expressing from the core of the universe are opening up to that light, allowing the petals to open, the fragrance to proceed into the air, bringing the sweet perfume that is the infinite love with a capital L that makes life worth living. So in gratitude for it all, in gratitude for every single human being alive on this planet who brings their own unique flavor, even those that bring us challenge, because it all directs us back within to help us become more clear on who we are in this physical carnation of that life that is infinite. So in deepest gratitude for everyone taking their own steps, deepest gratitude for the teachings of Ernest Holmes, derived from the teachers of so many contemporary and historical figures, the people who tapped into their own inner landscape and brought that forward into the world to inspire others, for everybody that answered the call within, that shows me I can do the same, that you can do the same, and that is Spirit's and universe's good intention to allow, to encourage. I say thank you for it all. So I just know that right now we are carried, we are blessed, we are protected. There is never anything that can harm us, nothing that can take away from us, only that which makes us experience more of what we truly are. So for gratitude, with gratitude for all of that, I say thank you, and I just release these words knowing that as we go forward, our light can shine brightly, and I affirm it by saying, and so it is. So it is. So thank you. Thank you.